This is wild. This is too much. Currently on page 258, just got to the part where she gave him the journal to read. He read the journal. He asked a bunch of people a bunch of questions. We found out that Dr. West is a part of this somehow, that he treated her, which is so weird. Also found out that the wife, Theo's wife, was having an affair. What does that have to do with anything? What does that have to do with anything? Kathy hasn't even spoken, which is kind of weird. Like, I mean, she has spoken like once or twice, but like she really isn't a character in this, and yet we're following the affair, which is kind of odd. Anyways, so the moment that I'm at is where he's meeting with Alicia, and he says, Alicia, this is your last chance. I'm sitting here now with Professor is it Diomedes or Diomedes? Greek names are kind of hard to pronounce when you just are not familiar with Greek mythology. And like I see in the other page that she all of a sudden says something for the first time in 258 pages. She says something. Oh my god. Around the time when we are like seeing Alicia slowly more open up, I feel like is when the book kind of started to become a page turner. Originally, the book was a page turner only because of the hype of the response that it got from other people. Like, I only want to read this book mainly because a lot of other people have told me to read this book, and because I'm on BookTube, and BookTube is so hyped on this book. And now that I'm here, I'm like, oh my god, what the heck is gonna happen? Theo had a conversation with Alicia's cousin Paul. Also, why is Paul still looking after Aunt Lydia? Isn't Paul like grown as heck? Like isn't Paul like in his, I don't know, like aren't Paul and Alicia kind of the same age-ish, like close? Paul should just leave Lydia, which I know is like very hard to do when you have like a narcissistic relative. But anyway, oh my god. So apparently Alicia says something because Theo is like, listen, girl, if I keep going on a limb for you, I'm gonna get fired. So you better say something. After 7 or however many years, you better say something. And then she just says something. That's crazy. Page 264, 265, they talk about how she's like, it's all because of you that I'm speaking, because you validate me. And that puts into perspective so much, because throughout this whole book, everybody just feels so villainous. All of the therapists, everybody in Alicia's life just feels so like interested in their own stories. And especially like as somebody who describes something that is like related to her own experience and is invalidated sometimes, it must have drove her crazy to have opened up to her husband. This is wild. And Theo, like, a little bit of me was wondering, was it Theo who stalked her and then now is becoming her therapist? Or is he just like in love with her? But this page of there's this line that says the lines were blurred between, well, it doesn't say that directly, but the lines were blurred between therapist and patient. And a lot of it feels needed, like the lines need to be drawn because she wouldn't have opened up. But a lot of it kind of feels like, this is weird that you have to care so intensely about a patient in order to get them to open up because protocol isn't working, which makes sense because, like, I would hate to be in a mental institution with people who just want to do their job and do it one direct way for everybody, because that just doesn't work on everybody. I don't know what I'm saying. This is just wild. What is going on? So the man that Alicia was scared of, the stalker, the potential stalker, is now in her house and tried to trap her, and then she tried to escape, and all of a sudden she's like, she can't handle it. She's so overwhelmed that now they have to stop, and she's like, can I have a smoke? And he's like, yeah, you can have a smoke and we'll just go outside. And she's like, cool. What the heck? And now I'm on the next page. This is too much for me. She's describing the scene where the man is like confronting her and saying, "Hey, do you have a drink? Can we have a drink?" Which is so wild. And then she's reaching for the gun as she pulls out like a cup for herself, and he already has the gun. So is it, what's his name? Is it her husband? Is it Gabriel? Is Gabriel the killer? Or the killer? Is Gabriel the stalker? Just kidding. Gabriel actually is out at a shoot. Okay. Okay, so we just got the explanation from Alicia that somebody broke into their apartment, held her captive, waited for Gabriel to come home. Gabriel all of a sudden was like ambushed, but I thought that was going to be it, but I was kind of like, that kind of feels too obvious. And as I was saying that, Theo also was like, I don't believe it, which is amazing because that just feels like too. I was thinking like, oh, she's probably framed, you know, as I was reading the book. But that to me just felt like a sloppy way to end the book, because it's like, okay, even though it's not obvious, it just feels like it would be the way to go if you want to end a thriller like that in a very boring way. So hopefully that's not it. Hopefully we figure out the truth for real. We'll see. I don't know. We think Alicia has attempted to commit suicide, but somebody had just attempted to murder her. The last couple pages reveal to us that on the night of the murder, it was Theo who was stalking her all along. Whoa. No, actually, it was really crazy. I kind of got chills when I was reading it. And he's the one who like tied them up, and basically he was going to kill one of them and said, you have to choose who lives and who dies, Gabriel. And Gabriel was like, couldn't be me. So then he's like, he basically says that, and then Alicia's like, are you kidding me? And Gabriel, of course, like shoots at the ceiling, makes Gabriel think that Alicia's dead. Gabriel's like, oh my god. And then Alicia snaps because who wouldn't? Like, he killed her. And then Alicia actually kills him, like she really killed him. Okay, so I finished The Silent Patient yesterday, and I really, really liked it, but I was listening to a review directly after it that said that the twist at the end was really obvious and they could have guessed from like page 20 that it was gonna happen. And I can agree, the twist could be figured out if you're just smart enough to figure things out like that. But as somebody who's just a little bit slower, I enjoyed the idea of like, oh, maybe we could have figured this out, maybe we could have seen this coming, but the author gave us just enough to be let off the trail, you know? I thoroughly enjoyed it. Although I will say a large part of why I liked the book was because of like the hype that came with it. I wanted to finish the book and finish like looking at the story of it because other people were not only telling me to, but because I saw a lot of reviews on it. It was like very well received in the book community. I didn't even know that it came out in 2019 until I looked at like the Google Wikipedia, not the Wikipedia page, but like when I looked at the summary for it, which is, I thought it came out like this year because so many people were still talking about it and are still talking about it, because that's just what great literature do. The book, I think, does a really good job of discussing the patient and therapist dynamic and the flaws overall in mental health institutions. Not that I would know anything about that. I wouldn't know a single thing about that. I really wouldn't. But the idea of exploring what it's like in mental health facilities and then just kind of like shedding a light onto like, oh, therapists are also messed up. Psychotherapists, psychiatrists, whatever, also have baggage and could be preying on you. You know, that exploring that idea is so interesting. Like, it's not just, oh, my therapist knows so much and has been to school and is able to help you and provide you with tools. It's like, no, therapists also need to be therapized and potentially locked up in a mental institution as well. Theo should be there with Alicia as well. And it's wild. The book makes you think about themes outside of what he's just showing you and telling you about. I mean, he did tell you about like the client therapist relationship, but I was more so thinking of like, oh, I'm empathizing with these people because these are very broken people, and he's admitting that he's like a messed up person, and that's why he got into psychotherapy to heal himself. I think also I should have taken a hint when he said like, oh, I'm a messed up person, this is why I'm in therapy, this is why I'm treating Alicia. Should have been like, you know what, maybe maybe one of his crimes is the reason why we're in this space. But I didn't think about that. I really didn't, and it's such a shame. One of my criticisms that is like a very small criticism of this overall like really good book is that we didn't hear a lot from Kathy. We heard maybe like 2 lines from one random chapter in the book and at the very end. I feel like we didn't really get to see Theo actually criticized or humanized. Like, we felt bad for him because he just felt like this victim, and we didn't really see him portrayed as somebody who actually had problems. And I think it was a really good idea on the author's part to do that, because like, you just never a lot of us never really suspected him of being anything other than this person wanting to help another person. And that's another thing, is like the theme of Theo being obsessed with Alicia is something that made me think like, oh, maybe he did kill Alicia's husband, Gabriel. Throughout the book, you're just like, no, he's such a victim. He's such a soft boy. He would never, he would never lay a finger on anybody else. He's just dealing with his own stuff. People need to just provide him the space. All of these therapists are like on his back for nothing, you know? And that's another thing, is like the therapists are all weird. Yuri, my God, what a disappointment. He did not need to show Yuri giving Elif, that girl, the drugs. He did not need to include that detail, because like, we need at least one therapist that's a genuinely good person. And maybe it's Indra, maybe, but we don't know anything about her. To be honest, throughout this whole story, I was getting kind of annoyed that he would just mention all of the other therapists. I was like, well, how does this tie into the story? What is this gonna do for the progression of the plot? I don't want to hear about Dr. West and how he found him annoying. But overall, like, solid book, solid themes, solid well, is there even like a message? There really wasn't a message. I had a solid takeaway because it really made me think. I feel like you know that a good book is a good book when you have to like take 20 minutes after it just to sit and think about it and the way that it's impacted your life, because you've just dedicated hours into spent into reading it. So, but yeah, I give this book, I'm not like, I want to become more of an avid reader. I feel like I used to be when I was younger, but now I'm like actually getting back into reading. So I give this book a 9 out of 10, but that's just from somebody who hasn't read a lot recently. Maybe in a year I'll give this like an 8 out of 10 or 7. I don't know. There's some really valid criticism over this book. Like, some people are saying that you clearly could see the twist coming, because there's so many people talking about a twist, and so you're just like kind of like expecting it and waiting for it. I thought it was good. Anyway,